Welcome to Beyond the Awards, a podcast from the British Wedding Film Festival. This is where we have honest conversations with filmmakers shaping wedding cinema, nominees, winners, and industry voices. I'm Joss.
And I'm Jeff, and as co-founders with Laura and Pete of the British Wedding Film Festival, we're excited to bring these conversations to you.
For this episode of Beyond the Awards, we're joined by James Tracey, an award-winning documentary videographer based in Yorkshire. With over 14 years of experience, 500 weddings under his belt, and a nomination at this year's British Wedding Film Festival in the Best Use of Cinematic Language category.
Today, we're diving deep into the art of cinematic language and the creative decisions that shape a truly great film. We'll be talking about James's journey, how he captures authentic unstaged moments without sacrificing that high-end movie feel, and what it's like to be recognised on the festival stage. James, welcome. James, welcome to the podcast. It's great to see you, mate.
Thank you.
Obviously, we know each other quite well.
Yeah.
I don't know
Go back.
I don't know how transparent to be, being this conflict of interest type thing going on here. But yeah, we spent quite a bit of time together, haven't
we? Say it.
Yeah, well, I mentored James for a year.
There you go. Yeah, we go back. And then obviously when I wanted to get into this, I came to Jeff and said, teach me everything you know. And I don't think I quite got everything, but I got more than I expected. So,
James, what is Jeff like as a mentor?
He's tough and ruthless.
Is he?
Honestly, yeah. He's the master of the shit sandwich.
Yeah. Well, at least I did the shit sandwich.
This is good. This is shit.
Yeah. It could have just been the filling.
Yeah, you were very polite. You went, I like this. And then we spent an hour where everything got torn apart. And then you went, but that was good. But over the year, the middle bit got slightly less over the year. So you felt like you were getting somewhere. But yeah. Tough. But that's what you need, isn't it? You don't learn if everyone's nice and blow smoke up your ass.
No, of course not. But before we crack on, I was just mentioning to Joss before that you are partly responsible for the British Wedding Film Festival because you introduced me to Joss at Tweer Northwest a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel my place in history is sealed.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, obviously the Lawsons were very integral, and I'd been chatting to the Lawsons for a couple of years by that point, and then they were just about to pull out, just saying, "Oh, we're just too busy," and it was almost fizzling out. But then, obviously Joss has got the biggest battery in the world, and got it cracking. And then the Lawsons were like, "Oh yeah, well we can't not do it now." So yeah, thanks James.
It would have probably happened anyway, but as long as it got us on,
you
this
accelerated.
path,
you accelerated the process, James.
Yeah, you never know. So, I don't want to. I can't take credit for anything, even little things. So I'm just my inbuilt sort of deflection thing kicks in. This is going to be awful to talk about, basically a film that got nominated. I'm just going to, well, it was all luck. Well, I was just right place, right time. I'm not very good at that.
Well, it is all luck, isn't it?
Well,
it is for me.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm really interested, James, because obviously, James, me being based in the northwest of England as well, I've been following you for some time as well. When I started 4 years ago, I followed obviously Adam Wing, all the big voices of the industry, and then a lot of them seem to be northwest, yourself included. So when I started, Adam, you, the Lawsons, all of the trio that were northwest. Jeff, of course. I was going to talk about Jeff, but there was a nucleus of amazing UK wedding filmmakers based in the northwest. It was cool. So I'm actually excited to talk about your creative process, James, because your work is really different to a lot of the people we've had on this show. There's definitely, I can see an influence from Mr. Jeff Wood on this podcast, but it'd be cool to kind of see your application of it and what you do.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But before we do that,
sorry, we know what's coming. No, we know what's coming.
Yes,
have you prepared it, James?
I have prepared.
It's
prepared.
I'm looking forward to this one.
Oh, do you know the biggest problem is Jeff knows so much about my boring stories that I had to really dig into the past to find something that he might not know. So
yeah. Okay, so James, we like to ask our guests for 2 truths, 1 lie. Looks like you're prepared. Go for it. Hit us.
Okay, number 1. I have been mistaken for a footballer, and I've been in photographs, signed autographs, and signed fan shirts on 2 separate occasions at 2 different professional football league clubs.
So you've signed someone's shirt?
Oh, are we
That's
allowed
amazing.
to ask
That's the
which
best.
footballer?
Mistaken as myself. So, yeah, not for a real footballer. They thought I was a footballer at 2 different clubs.
That's so funny.
Weird.
Okay.
It's going to take me a bit to get my head around that. I don't quite understand. Anyway,
I
crack on.
love that you signed someone's shirt. Did you tell them after the fact?
No. Somebody's still got a signed shirt with my autograph on it and some photos of me next to them.
That's the best.
So why
Brilliant.
not?
Love
Number
that.
2, I booked a live ordnance into police property, which resulted in the entire police station being evacuated, including all the custody cells, as an armoured bomb disposal unit had to attend and defuse it.
What? I feel like I would have heard this story if it was true. I don't know.
For now, I want to believe it because I know that James was in the police before.
I was in the police, yep. So, third one, still in my police days. So, whilst attending a sudden death, I accidentally sat in the exact spot where the deceased had been sat and realised that I was in their expelled fluids. But remaining ever professional, I stayed there, completed all the paperwork for 30 minutes, and this earned me the nickname Pampers.
God.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah, they're going to be
Yeah,
something to get through, aren't they?
So, yeah, there you go. Have a think about that.
VidFlow helps wedding and event filmmakers deliver their films in a premium Netflix-style experience that feels as cinematic as the work itself. Instead of juggling different platforms, download links, and USB sticks, VidFlow brings everything together into one beautifully branded platform.
And the best part, your couples can watch their films directly on their TV using the dedicated TV app from VidFlow. No HDMI cable, no USB sticks. Just open the app and press play.
If you want your delivery experience to feel just as premium as the films you create, visit VidFlow. Anyway, back to weddings.
I couldn't do weddings just because Jeff knows all the wedding stories, so I had to dig a bit deeper.
This is so funny.
Yeah.
This is so funny, like as if I didn't know. So, how did you get into wedding filmmaking, and what did you do before?
Well, before I was a police officer, so I think we've covered that. I did 10 years in the police, frontline stuff, and I had enough of that. I got married myself, and I was trying to find an escape plan, and I bought a camera, and then I did a few weddings for free, and I managed to, I think the thing that I got lucky is one of those was a Don't Tell the Bride wedding on BBC Three, as it was at the time. If you're on TV, I say this every time, everyone thinks you're good. So then I booked enough work then that I could quit the police, go full time. I photographed for 5-6 years. I stumbled across Jeff at the Wedding Industry Awards back in, I was going to say 2013. I was nosing through the judges and I went to have a look at the video judges. At that point, most wedding films weren't great. You know, they were kind of the cheesy old school 7-8 hours long. And I thought, I wonder what wedding films are like. Clicked on some of Jeff's work, and he knows this, so it's probably awkward for Jeff because I know he doesn't take compliments very well either.
I do.
Oh well,
Keep bringing it.
It was Brian and Katie's wedding film, the one in North America. I remember calling my wife in from the kitchen and I made her watch it. I was like, oh my God, have you seen this? Like, this is insane. I can't believe this is a wedding film. And then this is how sad it is. We spent the rest of the night watching all Jeff's films. And I thought,
the rest was shit.
Oh no, I was like, I cannot get my head around how somebody is, I just assumed there must have been a team of like 6 people. That was it. I became like a bit of a fanboy. And then through a mutual friend, John Wilson, we went into Manchester and you were there with a couple of other photographers, Dave Stubbs and a couple of other people. And it was weird. You sort of walked in and, you know, like if you see someone famous, I was a bit like, it's Jeff Wood. And I was sort of sat there and he was the most ordinary person in the world.
Those days are well and truly over for me now. It's more like people are saying, there's Adam Wing. And I'm like,
yeah.
Adam?
Jeff, when you saw James Tracey, did you think he was a footballer?
No, and we got chatting. I think at that point you'd just done the Russians in Miami, that the I forget the couple's name, but it was the greatest thing I'd ever seen. And still to this day, I still think it stands right up there as one of the absolute all-time great wedding films. And then I went away and thought, oh, what if I wanted to do video? And we went to a gig. We went to see the War on Drugs. And I just floated the idea, and you were like, "Yeah, I'll do that," because you're quite chill. And then about 3-4 months
you were my
later,
first, weren't you?
Yeah. We won't use. We won't say we won't use virgin territory or anything like that. That sounds really bad. But I sent you an email, I think, or a WhatsApp or something like that, and just said like, "Go on then. What's the price?" And we spent a year where I basically got told it was terrible, which was fun.
So when was that, James? Was it about 2013, 2014?
I started as a photographer in 2012, and then I got in touch with Jeff to start the mentoring I think we started in 2019, because I just finished the mentoring. I was ready to take on the world. I was all pumped, and it was February 2020. So
actually, do you know what, James? We've had a few that on this show that have done the transition from photo to film. And I never asked this question, but I want to ask you. A lot of people are saying, oh, film is a lot harder. A lot of other people are saying, well, actually, no, photo is much easier. Where do you stand on that? Because I know there's different challenges for either of them. What's your view on it?
If you were to say which is the hardest and I had to pick one or the other, I'd say film is harder overall. Mm-hmm. I would say on the day, there are moments that are far, far easier. And then there are like the ceremony. Well, basically there's the ceremony where it can get a bit stressful time-wise. Or basically wherever there's audio, it's a bit gnarly. But from a photography perspective, I actually did, I came out of retirement and did a photography job this weekend. And most of it is fairly straightforward. And then I got to the group shots and I remembered why I retired. Because just people they just, they want to go and do fun stuff. They don't want to come and stand in a line. But obviously rounding them up and everyone's getting annoyed because it's like you're the person that's making them be there, except I don't really want anybody there. I'm happy for you to go back. And you can't like go, it's the couple's fault, because obviously that's not cool. So I found that bit a bit awkward. And then you kind of like, you have to really care about the couple stuff a lot more as a photographer, whereas for video, I'm not that fussed. So I think overall video, certainly when it comes to the editing and the audio, they both have the challenges, but yeah, I'm going to give it to video. Video wins.
Yeah.
I should say that. It's a video podcast. We're all victims here, aren't we? We all suffer together.
Yeah. So you were nominated in, I remember you telling me before the awards that category is the ultimate, that would be the one to be the most proud of. So how did it feel to be nominated in best use of cinematic language?
From day one, when I sat down with you to be mentored and you showed me like the slideshow of basically the intro to like what we're going to do, it just blew my mind what you could do with video and what you could say basically with video. So obviously that's been the backbone of everything we did for a year and everything I've tried to do afterwards. So when you announced it, I was like, I know that's quite niche, but that's the one. That's the one that like, if I could get nominated, that's the one. I mean, winning hard, but nominated, I would have been delighted for. So obviously when we sat there on the night, and it was, by the time it got around to that category as well, like I think it was fairly well established. It felt like quite a big deal by then. Like getting a nomination was like, this is like sort of being up for an Emmy or like an Oscar. Like it's kind of, and I think my memory might not serve me correctly, but I think my name came out first on the screen. And I don't know, you try and stay cool, don't you? I was sat with Stefan from YSD. You guys know Stefan, don't you? And he was like pushing me, being dead childish, because that's what you like when you... And I was trying to like, I think the wedding filmmakers were sat at our table as well. And I was trying to be like all dead cool about it. Like, yeah, like, I won't win. But inside going, oh my God, I could win. Like I am up first. I might win. And then you pull +2 up next and everything I'm not winning. So, and then the wild strawberry came next, and then is it Calens? My French isn't brilliant.
Yeah, I think
and I was like, it's just nice to be here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, interesting. It's interesting that for you it's the ultimate, but it was actually quite lean on entries, that category. And I think the main reason is it's not really spoken about, cinematic language. Actually, some people even said, what's the difference between cinematography and cinematic language? So I think, it's a great opportunity now to chat about it and to, to kind of discuss, like, sort of just to show people, what it is, because it's, for me, cinematic, as soon as, as soon as Alejandro started doing his thing and started explaining to me about cinematic, that was the moment everything clicked into place, and I realized the potential, the still unfulfilled potential that filmmaking has in the wedding industry. There's people are just kind of dipping their toe into it, but no one is going fully in. And that's why I find this category the most interesting. And, just for anyone that's not aware, obviously cinematography is, sorry, Josh, I'm going off script a bit.
But that's that. You're probably going to answer, Jeff. You're probably going to answer what I would like you to talk about,
right?
Which is what actually is it?
Obviously, cinematography is decisions made during the shoot. So lighting, framing, all of that stuff, lens choice. Cinematic language is decisions made during the edit or during the storyboarding. Or you could kind of do some mental storyboarding during the shoot, but it's certainly things that are pieced together like a sentence. So say one shot represents a word, another shot represents another word. If you know how to put them together correctly, you get a sentence. And there are things like, oh God, I should have gemmed up a bit, but there were some obvious things to use in wedding films, like dual action is always a very nice, easy one, because you can build tension by showing a very lively scene and then cut it amongst a very subdued scene just to exaggerate the feeling for both scenes. But something that I've used pretty much for every single wedding highlights, this is like cinematic language at its very basic level. I use dual action to shoehorn the rest of the day into a film. Say I'm doing an edit and I get to a 3-minute edit and I get to 2 minutes and I've not even shown any of the wedding or the evening. And it's a way of using footage from later on in a way that makes sense, without suddenly jumping to the evening. You can use a graphic match, a match cut to sort of show people walking a certain way and then them walking into the actual wedding a certain way, and then a similar shot of them walking into the evening in a certain way. And it's a way of mixing 3 scenes together and making it flow. So that's at its very basic level. There's some seriously complicated shit that I can't really get into during the podcast, but I certainly will when I'm going to make a reel soon just to try and explain everything. But anyway,
good luck explaining that in 60 seconds.
Well, I'll touch on it because, and the reason I'll touch on it is because Plus Two used a very, very clever piece of intellectual montage. An intellectual montage is another level of symbolism, and I'll describe the scene because it'll make people understand what intellectual montage is. Their winning film, there was a bit that particularly impressed the judges where the groom kind of like looks through a grilled kind of like sort of fence, and then it shows line of sight. That's a piece of cinematic language. Shows line of sight, shows the bride walking past, and then when it cuts back just to his ice cream that's melted. That is intellectual montage, and it's that's what blew my mind. That's what blew all the judges' minds.
What was powerful about that, when I listened to their interview with you guys as well, is their explanation of it was they thought it meant this, but my understanding of it was, I think some were saying it was a passage of time. I was like, oh, she was like so hot that it's like it's melted him.
That's what Jeff thought. Yeah.
So I was like, and when you say intellectual montage, it's like it can mean many different things, and none of it's wrong.
Yeah,
it's what you take from it. But I was like, Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that ambiguity of it, because that's why it's so powerful, because it means something, and it's not necessarily something that translates into words. It just means something. While you're watching it, it just means something to you. You're just like, that something just happened, and you can't really put your finger on what it is. And it's not until you think afterwards that, oh, maybe it was this, maybe it was that. But that's the power of filmmaking.
Yeah,
So,
it's
great.
when you take something away from it. I printed it off here just because I knew I would never be able to say this, but it's the Kuleshov effect. I forgot it was, which is what we're talking about. Is and for anybody that isn't familiar with it, it was basically an experiment, wasn't it, by a filmmaker where he got an actor and it was just his face doing one thing. And then he showed 3 different audiences that same face, but the clip before was different for each showing. So the first one was a bowl of soup, the second was a girl in a coffin, the third was a woman on a bed. And he asked the audience to say, what did you feel? What did you think that person was feeling? What did you feel? And each time the response was different. So when it was a bowl of soup, they said, oh, he was hungry. His face looked like he was hungry. The second girl in the coffin, oh, he looked like he was sad. And the next one, oh, it was like, that's a scene of lust.
Yeah.
And nothing had changed, but what the filmmaker had done is he changed the perception of the viewer by the choices that they'd made. And that's the hard bit to explain. Your cut always has to like have a purpose, and the next one is saying something about the one that came before. And I know in weddings that's tricky because we don't always get the luxury of being able to choose what we want to say, but there is enough going on in there that you can try and structure things. I remember very, very early on, before I'd even come to see Jeff, and I think my wife was more attuned to this than I was back then. Because like you, Jeff, I had a light bulb moment when I sat down with you and you introduced me to this. I was like, oh my God, this is what it could be. And I'd done this wedding film. It was the first one I ever did. I shouldn't laugh because it sounds really bad. But the bride's mum had passed away before the wedding. So there was like some photos and stuff around, which you get at weddings, like a little tribute to mum. And my cut had gone from a roaring fire to cut to mum.
Oof.
Like in the scene setting, and Laura just went, oh, I hope she wasn't cremated.
So it was Laura that picked up on it.
Laura picked up on it. I was like, oh, they're 2 nice shots. And she picked up and she was like, I was like, oh my God. So obviously, and that's really basic level of what could that say to somebody else? And of course, I worked with Jeff then for a while and we learned a lot more.
That's a brilliant story. And it highlights kind of like how aware filmmakers have to be about this stuff, because as if someone that hasn't been working on it sits down and watches it for the first time, they're going to make these connections. And I remember judging like early on in Tweer, and there were all kinds of things that would happen, like they'd show a cow and then someone would start talking and I'd be like, fuck me, a talking cow. It's like, you got to be aware of what the viewer is going to feel. Funny. And thanks for bringing up that Kuleshov effect. Is it Kuleshov? Is that the right way to say it?
That's what I've got. Yeah, I mean, I'm not good in Russian, so I apologize.
Because there's for the listeners and viewers, Google Kuleshov effect, Google Russian montage theory. There's a whole lot of like YouTube videos that explain it brilliantly. And as well as that one, I'm particularly fond of the one with Hitchcock. So it's very, very, very similar, but a bit funnier.
James, how did you So we talked about your idea, which we'll go through into now. Does that cinematic language? What came to mind when you were actually editing that? Because obviously there's some stuff that Jeff and I and all the judges kind of know about, because I suppose we're familiar with the idea of cinematic language, and we knew when creating that category, like what we were looking for. How did you approach that? I'm talking about this edit specifically because obviously it's on our website. You were nominated for it, but I know that cinematic language is a big part of your universe, and that's something you try and do for all your edits. But for this particular one, how did you approach that specifically?
This was a 4-day wedding in France. So I knew I would have a little bit more time. I knew things would settle down and I'd have more opportunity to look and think about what I was trying to do with this. And from speaking to the couple were from Portland in Oregon. So where full circle moment where I'd seen Jeff's first film. This is where the couple came from. It's kind of weird how these things come about. And it was the bride's and it probably a touch cliche and maybe a bit on the nose, but it was the bride's dream to come to France and get married in this historic chateau, be around all this beauty, stuff that they just, like they said, they don't get in North America. So kind of before I even went into it, I sort of knew that a dream sequence would probably work. It would probably be something I'd be looking for. And again, we knew that with 4 days, we were going to do a road trip out to, I think it's Beauvais Rouge. Pardon my awful French pronunciation. That we had an expert in the room.
I don't know where that is. France is massive.
It's in Normandy, probably about 2 hours from Paris. It's a tiny little village, but it's really picturesque, thatched roofs, like really old school. I think it's been there forever. It's really beautiful, picturesque little French village. So we're going to do a day trip out to there. So I was like, that's the kind of relaxed day where we're going to get a lot of them being, there's no stress, there's no pressure. And I like to, very heavily inspired by Jeff, and probably the Miami film, the one that you did. I loved all the interior car shots when you were moving from one location to the other. Kind of the same with the Portland one as well, where they were driving the RV. So whenever I'm in a car and I can get in a car with a couple, I'm like, I'm going to film like the road passing, some road signs, really shaky handheld stuff, because obviously we're moving. I want to get that energy in it. And it was that point I was like, I could use this to open the film. Like, this is where she's thinking about what's going to happen, and then we'll either time hop back, forwards, whatever. And I think from that point then I sort of knew roughly that we were going to go down the line of a dream sequence. So, to go, it's showing, it's sort of showing, not telling, isn't it? It's like, let things happen on screen and let the viewer figure out what's going on. We don't need, this is a dream sequence, you don't need to tell them. And I think the choice then came that we'll do a short flashback, or flash forward. I guess it kind of doesn't really matter, but a time hop, to show that she was thinking about it, and then we'll just fade into the actual wedding. Then again, I was a touch on the nose where her sister did a speech and said it's been like a dream since we've come to France, and so I have sort of told as well as shown, but you can only sort of work with sometimes the audio you've got. So those little bits I knew when I was out there, this is kind of how it's going to take shape, and then it was sort of in the edit, then you start to build it together. Obviously you've got 3-4 days worth of footage, so you can generally for 3 minutes you can find something.
The film starts and ends in the same way. And there's another thing I was going to talk about, which is not necessarily cinematic language, but I mentioned that on a previous podcast, James, and we talked about you, because I seem to remember, maybe it's that film where you created the whole sequence of the bride walking down the aisle with just one shot. Was that you that done that, or you tried to kind of get as close to that as possible? Did I dream that? Might not be me, but this one I did try, and this is a Jeffism, so I can again take no credit for this. In fact, this came back from being mentored. So if people ever think about is it worth doing, a lot of my choices now come back to, and this was one that you didn't do, Jeff, that stuck with me when we were in Italy. And I'd gone out with you to do that wedding, and you would in an hour and about following the bride down the stairs. With the gimbal.
Kick myself about that.
And you didn't opt to do it. You asked me to go up the top to do the front shot, and you decided not to. And all day you were kicking yourself. And even 6-7 years later, you're still kicking yourself. You didn't do it. And I always remember saying, if it's hard, you should do it. If it's challenging, you should do it. The worst that can happen is you'll fail, and then you'll learn and do it better next time. And every time now, I was like, right, we've got this chateau, we've got 20 mil. I'm going to film as much as I can of her walking from the outside back to, it was only a small wedding, it was only 25 people. I want to get as much of that on the gimbal. And it was the one day the gimbal decided to throw a hissy fit and decided to start wobbling. So I'm having to try and rebalance it as she's walking. I got away with it. Bought a new gimbal after that. But wherever it's hard, you should try and do it. So I did do one single continuous shot all the way in. And I love that. If I'm outdoor, that's my go-to shot now. Because It's very Spielbergian, isn't it? You can introduce the venue and you can really show off movement and stuff. You just got to not fall over anything, which can be tricky. But So
I love that you're taking, because it is let's face it, is a big gamble. It's a big creative risk when you think about it. For an important moment, like for the bride, I feel like if you were to ask them, which they don't with video, but a shot list, like me walking down the aisle with my dad, would be top 3, right? So for you to kind of think, I'm still going to not play that moment safe. I want to be creative with that moment. That's fair play.
Every time it goes through, every time I do it, I do try and stick a safety up, but you can just never guarantee that somebody's. I mean, I did one a couple of years ago at Iscoy Park, and I put the safety up, and all the bridesmaids covered it because they weren't meant to stand there, but they did.
They do, don't they?
So and I got to the front, and I was like,
and if you put it over head height, then the tallest person in the wedding comes and finds it and stands right in front of it.
Yeah.
It's like bees in honey. They'll just find that camera and
wherever that camera is, somebody's going to block it. So that one, again, I got away with it because I sort of looked at them as it was the back, and I legged it up the side and managed to get some of them coming up the aisle on the white. It's not perfect, but then on the flip side, they seem to love it when they get that shot because it shows the dress off, it shows the venue, everyone's looking at them. There's this like almost drama, and it all comes back to when Jeff said, "I still kick myself 7 years later." So,
I mean,
it's a cool shot.
On another subject, I mean, I'm just skimming, some of these questions, and I just noticed that the term "happy accidents," and that made me realise that God, 80% of my work is happy accidents. So let's talk about that for a while. I mean, the actual, was there a point during the shoot that you had a happy accident, and that's what created this route into this dream sequence idea?
Not so much. That came really just being on the road trip. That just sort of felt obvious. It felt like if Jeff was in this car, he'd be filming this. So like, I like getting the reflections of the groom in the mirror. For me, that was like the most Jeff shot I've probably ever done. So I was a little bit like, oh, I can't wait for Jeff to see this. It's kind of one of those moments because I love all that kind of like organic stuff that happens. So I love all that stuff. But in terms of like happy accident, more in the edit, like there was probably 4 or 5 in that edit. I know we're going to probably come on to edit in a bit, but when I just throw everything on the timeline, really rough, and then you stick a track underneath. And sometimes it just like, oh, that works. And like, I don't really need to change. So there was 2 or 3 times in that edit where I didn't have to change something. It was like, that just naturally seems to work. So, but shooting wise, I don't think on that one, I don't think I got any like moments you were like, oh, that was lucky, like right place, right time. But I think like 90% of everything I get is kind of lucky because can't predict it, can you?
No.
Apart from predicting the bridesmaid standing in front of the locked off camera.
Nothing
else you can predict.
Right. And the gimbal spazzing up before the bride walks.
It wasn't even a little one as well. It was like, when it goes full sideways. So I was trying to like walk like that because the bridesmaids it did it on, and I was trying to counter it. And obviously the gimbal then fights you. But I managed to fix it. Because that would have obviously been, I think, a lost opportunity as well. If I'd not got that shot. So I fixed it.
Do you think that this whole idea of like cinematography, cinematic language, do you think it's too cerebral and couples don't really look at that stuff? Do you think we overthink it? I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here, right?
No,
I know that the reason we do this kind of service also for ourselves, like, let's face it. But do you think couples see that stuff?
I think you're right. I think it's a good question. I have this debate with myself, like, could I just knock out any old nonsense in any order and probably still book decent jobs and probably still make a living? And the answer is probably yes. But this sounds really selfish, and I don't mean it to, but I weirdly don't shoot for my couples ever. It's for me. Because the moment I lose interest, that's it. I'm out. My wife laughs at me because she's like, "You've had 4 careers. You just tap out after 7 years." So I'm due to go probably in the next 6 months and find something else. But she's like, "You need to be stimulated, like creatively, to keep going." And I think if this stuff is such an opportunity to do something so unique each time, so different, I reckon 90% of couples probably don't see it, but I do think they sometimes feel it. I don't think they care, but I do think I've delivered one this weekend where I'm going to upload the video soon. I tried to it took me a week to do the 2.5-minute film, but I put all sorts into it. And the feedback that I've got from the bride is like, she's like, I can't stop watching it. It's like the best thing I've ever seen. It's like a film. And so I think it does resonate, even if you don't necessarily understand it. That was a long answer. Sorry.
That's all right.
But I get that. And I think it's I do think it's important to talk about, like, I agree with you. 90% of my body of work is things that I want to do. Naturally, I use the couples and the edit and all the footage to I still deliver what I should do, or at least as in, like, it's a wedding film. But the interpretation of what a wedding is to me, that's what I care about. And so the shot selection, the frame selection, all of that, it's like, I do what I feel like doing. And whether couples notice that, I don't know. But I think as a whole body of work, eventually people do pick up on it. And it will end up being couples. It might end up being someone else. But I think it's important to do it for us. I really do. Because otherwise it's a very tough job to do. It's a stressful day. We talked about ceremony being one moment that's really stressful. I'd argue the whole day, I find the whole day, loads of little moments. It's just loads of little pieces of stress, you know? So if you don't do it for yourself, you just make I don't find it as enjoyable.
Yeah.
Personally.
There's 2 points I want to make on this subject. I think, on the question of whether, the couples actually appreciate it, I think cinematic language is more relevant now than ever, in a way that people are putting together reels, putting like 30-second, 1-minute reels. And when I see cinematic language used in reels, it really works well. Particularly, Alfie from Click Visuals.
Yes.
He's mastered it. He'll do very funny, very high energy reels with using cinematic language in a way that's obvious, that makes it even better. So yeah, that's one of the points I wanted to make. It is more relevant now than ever. And another is whether the clients appreciate it. They might not appreciate it the first 100 times they watch it, but if every time they watch it they notice something new, they're still getting joy out of it 10 years later.
Yeah.
They might notice something in 10 years that they didn't notice before, and that adds value. Yeah.
Because it isn't easy to do as well. Like I've done 2 recently. The one before the second to last one I've delivered, I've really pushed myself, and I've tried to do basically like a Christopher Nolan inspired. I'm not a huge Christopher Nolan fan, weirdly. Don't all hate me. I sometimes find his stuff can be a little like, but Memento I always quite thought was a smart idea, like a really clever film. And I always thought there was opportunity to do something wedding related. So I did one where I did 2 timelines. I had a Chelsea wedding in London, and I had then a Yorkshire marquee wedding 6 months later. So I had these 2 events where it's kind of similar stuff happened. Obviously one was grander in scale than the other. But I was like, I knew the groom had said that the Chelsea ceremony really mattered to him. It was like, it was more personal than he expected it to be. And it kind of like surprised him how much it affected him. So I was like, there's a great chance to like weave both of these together. But rather than just do parallel action, I was like, let's do one timeline going forward and one timeline going in reverse, like Memento does when it works to...
How did you come up with that?
To one... Well, I nicked it from Christopher Nolan. So he did the hard work. But we take it back to the point where I think it was confetti I decided in the end. I would have gone back to the kiss because I think that was more obvious, but the lighting was a bit rubbish because it was under a marquee. So I was like, the confetti is more colourful. That was better. So I tried to work one backwards and one forwards. And obviously you've then got to cut between the 2. You go from high energy in one to calm. I've used slow motion, which is not typical for me, but obviously we're going back almost dream sequency for the past for Chelsea. So we are on these high energy moments into slow, and it's that contrast that I want people to realize probably 30 seconds in, this is 2 different timelines. Like we don't set off, I don't put any text or anything. You're just figuring it out that these 2 things are working towards the same. That took forever to do. Did the bride and groom care? Probably not.
Probably not.
I know we do. That sounds really cool.
Yeah,
that sounds. Yeah,
I'd love to see it.
That reminds me, James. You've started this like series of posts on Instagram where you say my films look like, and then you have a director, and then you kind of show why. I like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they're fun, aren't they? They're good.
I think it was just the little things you can take. And again, all credit to Jeff. A lot of them is things he showed me. The Indiana Jones match cut with the hat. You showed me that when we were explaining match cuts. And I was like, oh my God, it's so simple. Look how he's jumped 25 years in time. I mean, any excuse to use Indiana Jones, I'll be honest. I'm a kid of the 80s.
Classic. I'm glad you mentioned that. You know, the kind of like time ellipsis is a really, really cool one to use, you know, and as well as the Indiana Jones hat and the fact that there's one in every single film that you'll ever watch. The 2001 Space Odyssey ellipsis is like, you know, the biggest ellipsis in cinema history, with the bone turning into a spaceship. But that's a really good one to use, because there was a point where I was like so purist that, and it was actually for Leanne's wedding, you know, Leanne the judge, Leanne Dodds, for her wedding, I was absolutely adamant I wasn't going to do any jump in timeline without a proper ellipsis. And it was that's how much time I used to spend on these things. You know, it'd be like, so it starts off like sort of halfway through the wedding, they're in a boat and sort of laughing at some jokes on an iPad, and then they get out and get on a moped and ride off. And then there's a slow dissolve from, you know, the triangle of the road disappearing into the river that's outside the hotel where they're doing the preps. And I was like so proud of that, you know, and I was like, and then when she watched it, she didn't really get it. she was like, oh, I loved it. I don't know what was happening, but I loved it.
But I suspect she still, like you said earlier, she still probably watches it and you still feel something. I know exactly that film. Again, it's another one that I'm like, it's bad because I'm like the ultimate fanboy. So I'm sitting in like, the bike, everything on that. There was so much energy and like, but that dissolve, I was like, whoa, look at that. That's so cool. But we were talking about those things at the time. So it's not like, oh, I've got like the vision. You sort of explaining things and he showed us it. And I'm like, I'm still looking for that, to replicate that in one of my films, because I still want that. The bike going off into the river was, you know, it jumped time beautifully.
It's probably, you know, if people are going to try this stuff after listening to the podcast, that's the one to try, I think, first. You know, if you've got a scene that ends with a shot that's similar to the shot that starts another scene, it's begging for it, isn't it?
Those for me are the ones that I know I can get them in pretty much every film. This film that got nominated, there's a sequence where they're both getting ready. I think there may be 4 or 5 match cuts in there. There's one where he's reading an old book from like the 1500s, and it match cuts to her doing the makeup held in the same spot. Sometimes just slightly reframe things so they match. Sometimes it's just the shape of their faces on the screen, or even the position on the screen where they are. But they're really little details. It sounds like knobby this, but it's like eye trace and stuff like that. You know, if you've read the Walter Murch book where he goes on about, you where your eye is, if you can then make the next thing there, that makes it flow. Whereas, or if you want to jar them and you want to jump them into you can move the point of focus somewhere else. But these are all the decisions you make and going, what do I want them to see or feel in the next shot? You know, like, where's this going? And like this year, every single year I sit down and go, this is the year that I'm going to really stop worrying about what the client wants. And I'm going to really start doing what I want to do. And then every year, halfway through,
what is it that you want to do then, James? If it was completely up to you and you had a blank canvas, couples are like, what would that be? How different is it to what you do now?
I'd try and get rid of the multicams. I'd shoot one camera, one lens, very similar to what Alejandro did, and basically go and find those micro stories. And maybe the entire film is only based around something that happened for an hour. You know, the wedding was almost incidental to it, but this bit, I'd love to do something like that, like to really focus on a specific point of the day. Instead, I still feel chained to, I've got to show some ceremony. I've got to do what a client expects. But that Memento one's the first one I've gone, right, it will feature all that. The nature of how that timeline works will feature it. But I'm not doing a linear simple edit. I'm going to do something in reverse. And some of the shots I didn't have that I needed, but I've learned that for next time. That's part of failure, isn't it? It takes you forward.
So it's almost as if the couple need a videographer as well as you.
Yeah. Well, that's
Isn't
what
it?
content creators are for. That's what we've
Well,
got.
that's kind of another thing as well, though, isn't it? So nowadays, if you're getting married to people, you need a videographer, you need a filmmaker, and you need a content creator.
Yeah. I have
So,
do you know what? I spoke to my wife, though, and said, like, should I take a second shooter to film the wedding stuff so I can just go and do what I want? And then they can, initially, you can give them all the stuff they expect, but then I can do the thing I want. Because there is a high risk of failure. You know, like I could go and pick and say, I'm going to do this, and then it just doesn't happen, or it's just not that good, or, you know, I don't quite get everything. And then you're like, oops, I haven't got any ceremony. So,
Oopsies.
It's funny.
Yeah.
When,
Sorry, guys.
touching on, oh God, I was shooting with Alejandro. It's my job in India, and he came along as a mate to like sort of, to collab, but it was my job. And there was a really stressful bit when the speech, the surprise speeches, you know, it's like you don't know when they're going to be, and then they're suddenly happening, and I'm running around getting tripods set up, and he's nowhere to be seen. He can hear, you know, I know he can hear the speeches. Where the fuck is he? And afterwards, when it was all over, I found out he was shooting the food. That's Alejandro, isn't it? It's just like, yeah, speeches. I've got a really good shot of some food.
do you know what? The one thing that didn't make it into that French film, and I sort of wish I did, and if I did it again, is they had a private chef making all the food, and it was all like really beautiful and ornate. And I shot him. This is where I talk about. This is what I should have shot. Him creating that food was like this piece of art. And then it all got, you know, swept up and delivered, and it walked through the chateau. And I did a gimbal follow of the food and then sweeping it down, being delivered. And it was quite a long shot. And I was like, oh, I can't really fit in here. Now that would have been the whole film. That would have been the film with the wedding around it, match cutting from it.
Yeah.
Because obviously I've moved on. That was 3 years ago, that one that I did. So I'm now like, oh, that's just been the whole film. Like this artistry, building it all up from nothing to something spectacular, and then the delivery of it was so fantastic. And I shot it, like, not tooting me on home, but I shot that quite well. Like my gimbal was working at that point. Now if I re-edit it, I would probably lean more on that side, because obviously the food's a metaphor, isn't it? And for all the other stuff that's going on, you know, the build up, the prep and all, you know. So I was like, probably would do that now. And that's the kind of stuff that I would love to spend more time, those little details that are perhaps the bride and groom are like, yeah, but where's me walking up the aisle? I'm like, yeah, but the food, which is,
I know. Yeah. Do you know, we mentioned that on a previous podcast. I think it might have been, was it with Philip? Where there are so many moments on a wedding day that we are essentially obliged to shoot because it's the expectation. I'm sorry, but a bridal prep shot with makeup, I'm like, I'm going to get it because ultimately you can build a little sequence from that. But it's not actually the meat. It's not the bone of a wedding day. That's not the exciting stuff. That's not where the emotion is. Just a shot of makeup on.
Yeah, you know what?
Same as like a shot of like putting a necklace on and earrings by a window. I do those shots. Don't get me wrong. I do. And sometimes they look great. The light is good. But it's like, that's just,
recently they've started to look
sit
dated.
by a window and you just put your earrings on and you just get a nice light. I love little moments of shots that are just unexpected, but you're there and you capture, and the frame is good and the light is good. It's like, that's what filmmaking is in the context of a wedding. That's my philosophy.
Yeah. You know, those makeup shots, I don't know if it's just me, but they're starting to look dated. You know, whenever I'm watching a reel now, I'm interested by everything that's going on until the makeup shot, and then I'm like, yeah, we used to do that, and it just looks a bit boring now. I don't know. Is it just me?
No, I still like prep.
No, I agree.
I like prep, but not for the makeup shots. I like it because that's where you're quite real, and that's where people are normal. I still feel obliged to go and film the makeup. I feel obliged to, you know, and with a lot of editorial photographers now, they are posing people by the window, and I think that's why it's starting to look dated. Effectively, we're doing what was done back in the 90s, and it's come back round. you know, I'm old enough to remember it the first time, and it's come back round. And
It's
you're like,
true though, with better lenses basically, but it's like the actual shot is the same.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
when you're filming it, you're kind of constrained by that a little bit. So you're almost like, well, should we even film this? You know, I'm more
for
interested.
sure.
To be honest, I'm more interested if something goes wrong and like there's some comedy. That to me is like. But then people are like, if I'll end up filming something that's like somebody smashed something or broke it, and like, oh, what are you filming that for? Like, you're not going to want that.
Do you know, it's funny because I shot a wedding not long ago where the photographer was very editorial, and in the morning there was 6 bridesmaids, all with their, you know, champagne, and the shots were very like, okay, now do a cheers and look at each other kind of thing. And then one of the bridesmaids, and at that point I was bored out of my brain because I was like, this is so boring. Anyway, one of the bridesmaids said, okay, this is boring. She went to get her phone, put something like Taylor Swift or whatever, and they all started dancing with the champagne and the glasses and what. And I was like, okay, now we're talking. Now this is a moment. Now this is a thing that's like moving, and there's emotion, and there's something about it. It's not just like cool. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure the pictures will look great. Don't get me wrong, but like on film, I was like, finally, there's something actually happening.
The photographer was probably
got life in it.
Probably fuming as well that they'd. What are you doing?
Yeah, you're moving too fast. What are you doing? Yeah,
you're doing this for. But I mean, I'm not. Look, styles change, trends come and go, and all that kind of stuff. Recently, it is getting. I find it a little harder. You're having to like stuff is getting a lot more staged, and that then I think that does impact us, because I do think like brides and grooms climb up a little bit as well when they're being asked to start posing and move here, do this. Am I doing this right? And then they ask me, and I'm like, I'd actually just want you to chill out. So I try and avoid. I'm trying to avoid the set pieces more and dig more into that, like, I don't know, the less glamorous, sexy side, and think like the more real side. Because I do think, like any trend, it's here now, it's cool for now, but in 10, 15 years, so we're all, you know, I'm nearly 50. When you look back at what you did when you were in your 20s and 30s, you think, I was a bit of a dick. Like, I thought that was really good, but it was a bit knobby.
Yeah.
But the things that matter are the things that perhaps you don't necessarily like, those little in-betweeny things, those little moments, that's what you're going to care about. So I'm still always looking for them rather than is that pose. I mean, I will shoot it because, you know.
Yeah, same. That's what I mean. Don't get me wrong. I'm not criticizing because sometimes it looks great and I do get it. But I would much prefer something where there's life in it and there's something.
Well, it's not a real.
No, that's what they'll remember. That's what they'll remember.
Yeah, it's not a real moment.
With the bridesmaids, you know.
Yeah.
You know what? I've got a prediction. I reckon within the next 10 years.
Is it a football prediction?
8-1. But you'll beat us, Joss. You'll beat us easily if we get. If we get
I keep
through.
forgetting about the French.
So my prediction is, as the the wedding industry is squeezed more and more with the introduction of content creators and photographers are getting a bit more, sort of involved with staging things. And there's an emergence of fucking amazingly done pre-wedding films. I think the more we lean in to the creative shot, the more successful we'll be as an industry. Because we can do things during that pre-wedding creative shot that no one else can do, with actual filmmaking techniques. We can storyboard it, we can direct it, and if you've got as much talent as the two that we always mention, plus
Damn the Dutch
and Wild Strawberry. If you've got as much talent as them, you'll nail it, and that'll be a new industry created.
Yeah,
So that's my prediction anyway. So yeah, do it.
Yeah, my slightly controversial thing, like I quite like prep because it's unscripted. I quite like the dance floor because it's unscripted. I actually find the majority of the wedding really boring. People are like, oh, what's your favourite at the wedding? They go, oh, the drinks reception. I'm like, oh, I have to properly wind myself up for the drinks reception because it's just people stood around drinking and talking. Like, I've sort of got that. And then I put, right, what can I find that makes this more interesting? Let's go and hunt something. But I struggle with like those bits where Like the ceremony's fine because obviously there's something happening there, but the actual drinks reception and then the UK wedding lull, you know, the bit after the food before the party, I'm like, can we get rid of that? Can we just do an American thing, get married later or whatever? But that's rubbish. Get rid of it. But I find then like I get my energy back then for the first dance because we're backed up, and by that point they don't care about you, do they? They're generally chilled out and they're fine. I like the dance floor then, but I do find like, maybe it's just me, I find the drum reception bit really hard. Really hard. I'd much rather do pre-wedding.
Join them. That's what I do.
Yeah, I know there's the people listening going, "You kidding? It's the best bit of the wedding." Like,
yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's not.
It is the best bit of the wedding.
It just varies for me. Like, it just depends. It's on a wedding basis. Like, I don't go into a wedding thinking, this is my favorite moment before.
Yeah.
As boring as that sounds, I'm like, don't know. Like, as I said, for me, that wedding I talked about, that my favorite moment of the day was just the bridesmaids just having fun on the morning of the wedding. It just looked like it was great.
When you get like a drinks reception where, like, say they've got a live musician or something like that, and people lose themselves and go very un-British for it, because like for me, my weddings are all generally in England and Britain, so I generally get the stiff upper lip. Like, I don't know where Alfie gets Click Visual finds his weddings, because they are not traditional British weddings by any stretch. Sam was like, "Oh, I'm going to film like Alfie today," and then everyone stood there, and you're like, "Yeah, I'm not today, not today." So, but when they lose themselves and they start to enjoy themselves and then that's great, because something's happening now. We've got story, we've got opportunity, and we've got match cut opportunities then for the energy later to come back to this energy now. Whenever, basically, you just want energy, don't you? You want energy spikes. That's what you're looking for through the day. So then you can jump around the day a little bit more. But yeah, you know, I don't know where Alfie finds his clients. He gets insane weddings.
We need to get him on, don't we, Jeff?
I've told him to enter next year. I've told him to enter.
Exactly.
We had a chat the day after, and I said to him, like, "Mate, you should be like, you be cleaning up. Get yourself in there."
Well, do you know, talking about next year, James, are you, most of the feedback we've been getting, as you know, it's been well documented now, I think, that some of the feedback after the first edition of the festival was a lot of European one. It's really hard to emulate this as a UK filmmaker and all that stuff. But also, a big portion of the feedback was very positive, very inspirational, and people going into this wedding season thinking, I know the kind of film I want to produce for next year and what I want to enter. Do you kind of feel that way? Is there anything this year that you're like, I'm going to take this bit from the festival, implement into my work, and go strong next year?
This is the biggest thing I took from it. When you guys announced you're doing this, I thought this is the best thing that's going to happen for our industry. We're Brits. We moan about everything. Is everything perfect? No. Would we all change something? Of course we would. But overall, when I sat there and I was looking at the quality, I'd never heard of Wild Strawberry. I know a few people had heard of Plus Two, but obviously I wasn't as familiar with the work as you become. I think that if I've come into this year and I've gone, right, the thing I keep saying I'm going to do every year, I need to start doing. I need to start doing what I want to do. And it won't always work. And I'm not going to produce stuff that is going to land every time. It's cliche, cheesy, like, you know, mentality stuff, but, you know, failure takes you forward, doesn't it? You know, every time you don't quite get something right, you learn for the next one. And I wanted to do stuff this year, and I've already started to do it. The last two edits, I've pushed myself to do something that isn't just the same as what I've already done. Right, do something else. It might not work. And then the last edit, for example, I got halfway through, scrapped the whole thing. It's like, this isn't working. But I found, it sounds really cheesy, this, but there was a really lovely story the bride's dad told about when the bride was 10 years old. She made him come and said, "I'm having the best day of my life, Dad. Promise you remember this forever." And he tells this story, and like he said, "Look, I've made that promise to you today, and I remembered it, and it was one of the most magical things of being a dad." And like I played the audio all alone to my wife, who burst into tears. Obviously, we're parents, and our kids are that age, and she's leaving primary school now, so we're highly emotional in our house. But she still burst into tears, and I looked and I thought, that's the story, like that. And obviously they do promises in their vows. So I took, you know, I made it around their vows. And then there was a little bit of the promise at the end, a little callback to it. And I just made the film about that promise that they've made to each other and how Dad honoured it and how that's their story moving forward. And then all the footage I've done, it ended with like a really high energy montage because it was quite a good wedding. They had like, the groom looked like Superman, basically, looked like Clark Kent. He was like huge, really like glass. He looked, his wife said if I had a pound every time I could have paid for the ceremony over again. Everyone says he looks like Superman. But he did a lift with her, and obviously confetti cannons are going off on the lift. I'm like, that's the high we're going to end on. So we started on the kiss, big cheer, bit of the build up, and then we're into this fast paced montage, but all based around these promises that they're making to each other. And I'm like, do you know what? I hate my work normally. I can't watch it for 3 months. I'm like you, Jeff. I despise everything I ever do. That's not bad. Like, I didn't hate it. I sat there and watched it. I'm like, it's not bad. I'll probably pull it to pieces in 6 weeks, but right now I don't hate it because I've tried to do something different.
Are you going to enter it?
Yeah, the main thing, probably. Well, every film I'm doing now, this is why I think it's one of the questions I'd seen on there. Are awards important? They're what drive me to try and do something. Every wedding I go into, I think this is the one I'm going to get something that's going to make the film that's going to enter. Even if it isn't, that's the mentality I take in because I know I'm going to try something today that makes me do something better. The client wins. I generally tend to win because I'll get something I like. And then maybe I don't enter it, maybe I do, but I've done a film that's better than I did last time or last year.
I loved what you said.
Awards are important.
I loved what you said on a reel. I think it was in the build-up to the festival. Was winning awards doesn't make you better, but entering awards does.
Yeah,
that's
great.
I
mean, I know some people. I know there's a big thing about awards, and I know some people will say, "Oh, if you pay to play and all that kind of stuff." But I was lucky. I won TWIA once regionally. And I didn't come out of that and get like a shed load of new inquiries, and I didn't suddenly overnight become this like amazing videographer. I got more inquiries, and without being horrible, the quality of the inquiries went up. So I do think that's an interesting.
Well rescued.
Yeah, good. Just get that haul. I'm out. But joking apart, it did make a difference. But it wasn't like you'd hear people going, "Oh, I got like 500 inquiries the week after." I'm like, yeah, it was good, but it wasn't 500 inquiries. But what it did do is it made me think, right, I worked really hard for that and I did some new stuff and that led to this. So if I keep doing that, it's like keeping yourself honest, isn't it? It's the entering that is it's cheesy, but it's the journey, isn't it? It's not the destination.
James, quick fire round. Favorite lens?
50mm Isloxia. Your fault.
It is lovely. It is. Have you still got the black rubber band around it to make it grippier?
Yep, the one you gave me. Still got two of them.
Favorite part of we kind of talked about this, but favorite part of the wedding day to film?
Controversially, I like prep because it's unscripted and I like the dancing.
One editing shortcut you couldn't live without. Not quite get that one.
Yeah, I don't really have like shortcuts as such. I guess I do. I'm going to blame Jeff. It's dump everything on, stick a song underneath, and just do something. Like, don't procrastinate. Don't think about how you're going to start. Just do something. Even if it's 30 seconds into the film, don't worry about the start. You'll find that later. Just start. And that's saved me so much time.
I saw a reel about someone saying they pretend they've hired a monkey.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm the monkey, just doing the first bit, and then the real person can come along. Sorry, next one.
One film, not a wedding film, that everyone should watch.
Ooh, that's a curveball, isn't it? Right.
Jaws.
That's just come up, hasn't it? The top film. Oh man, do you know? I always this is slightly left field, but I always like Senna because that film.
I've seen it.
Asif Kapadia.
Really good.
Basically, we all know it's the classic. It's a wedding. We all know what happens. He dies at the end, but he manages to use through found footage only and rescued archival footage. Tells this unbelievable story where even when it comes to him dying, you still almost don't want him. You almost don't think it's going to happen.
You're thinking, no, he's not dead.
And you feel the loss, and it's so well structured, and it proves we've no excuse for not making a great story because we have control. So that one I think is really good for how to edit, basically.
Very good. One filmmaker who inspires you.
I'm going to pick Chris Storer, who is the guy that writes and directs The Bear. Because I think
very good.
I think his stuff is. I know The Bear's not controversial, but season 1, season 2, everybody loved. 3, 4, not so much. I haven't started 5 yet. We're about to go into it. But it's all high energy, isn't it? It's all tight cuts, all emotion, and it's basically around a really simple thing. One day in a kitchen, or the lives of those people. Kind of the same with us. You put a bunch of people together that don't always get along, and now we've got this melting pot. So I think his direction, especially the way they use tight shots and cuts and the food as metaphors and all that, I think we can use a lot of that the way we do, and I do try and nick a lot of that. So,
coffee or energy drinks when editing?
Jeff knows the answer here. It's neither.
Coffee?
Neither.
Tea.
I am a absolute tea man.
Oh, you're a tea man.
From Yorkshire, there is only one brand, the Yorkshire tea.
Yorkshire tea.
And that's it. I will have 8 a day, and in the morning at least 3 before we start. I'm sure it's bad for my health, but I don't care.
I think I know the answer to this one. What's the most overrated trend in wedding filmmaking?
I'm not a massive fan of slow motion. Was that the answer you were thinking of? I never loved it before I started working with you, and that didn't make it any better. So yeah, just turn it off. Just put it on 25p. Force yourself to edit with that, and you can't really do the cinematic language with slow motion as well, can you? Because you can use it for little bits, but
you can't. Slow motion. I mean, I don't hate slow motion, but it's got its place.
I don't hate it. I'll get it. I don't. It's overused. Yeah, as it's place.
People use it when they shouldn't be using it. And the last one.
What's an underrated skill every filmmaker should develop?
Oh, underrated skill. I mean, the one that I thought of first, this might not be the one it might be, is I'm going to come back to Jeff. It's like, oh, Jeff. The one I would probably think of is, could you shoot a wedding on one camera, one lens? If you can tell a story through one camera, one lens, and that forces you to pick your feet up and move somewhere else, and pick your feet up here and move somewhere else, and get tight and wide, once you then add all the other bits in, gimbals, drones, all the other, they become additional tools that enhance that. But the fundamental story, I always think, is so much stronger when you work off like just simplicity. Like, I can only get this with this now. You're not paralyzed by what's the word? Paralyzed by indecision, is it? Like, oh, is this a 50 or an 85 moment? Well, you've got 50. And I think that you've told the story when you ended up in Ischia, where you only had a 70 to 200. Or even that wedding that you did last year in Sicily, where your tripods didn't arrive and you had to improvise. Often stress and improvisation makes you better, but if you practice that in advance, you're never going to panic then if I've only got what I've got. So yeah, that.
So can you remind us
of
the 2 truths and 1 lie?
Right.
Sorry, Joss. Sorry that I've not given you a chance to talk for the past 20 minutes.
Yeah, apologies. That's good.
No, don't worry about it.
You're going to get your time to shine when you win the World Cup in a week, so don't worry about it. Whilst we're crying into our cornflakes, you'll be loving it. So, number 1 was, I have been mistaken for a footballer, and I've been in photographs, signed autographs, and I've signed fan shirts on 2 separate occasions at 2 different professional football league clubs. Number 2, I booked a live ordnance into police property, which resulted in the entire police station being evacuated, including the custody cells, as an army bomb disposal unit had to attend to defuse it. And number 3, whilst attending a sudden death incident, I accidentally sat in the exact spot where the deceased had been sat and realised I was in their expelled fluids. But being the consummate professional that I was, I remained there for the entire 30 minutes filling in the paperwork, and this earned me the nickname Pampers.
That's true. Although, if that's...
I will say that's the lie, just because I think
maybe that's the lie.
I think Jeff is going for the second one, so I'm going to go for number 3 being the lie.
Yeah, personally. I mean, let's do that then. Let's do that. But I think you're going to win, Joss.
Do you?
Yeah.
So Jeff's going for the live
I'll go for the
ordnance.
middle one. I'll go for the middle one, the ordnance.
And Joss is going for
the Pampers.
And you want me to do the grand reveal?
Yeah.
Jeff wins. Jeff wins.
I kind of knew I should have gone that because that was your intuition, Jeff, wasn't it? And I was like, maybe I should do what Jeff does.
No,
that was not intuition. My intuition was saying the same as you, Joss. So that was just luck.
Oh, was it?
Pure.
So I forced you into
luck.
it.
Well, it's not an entire lie, is that it just wasn't me that did it.
Right.
So another sergeant who I worked with went out to pick up what had been reported as some found World War II thing, came into the nick. It was throwing it around in the police station and people were throwing and catching it.
God.
And it was a live, unexploded, they call it ordnance, are they? Some form of military thing that could have blown up, and it would have basically wiped out half the police station and all the people in it. He was a bit of a character, was the sergeant. Like, he thought it was funny afterwards, but everything got evacuated, bomb disposal had to come out and everything. Because I came on shift afterwards, and I was like, what the hell what's been happening here? And it was when we found out who it was, like, yeah, that figures. So... yeah, so it's the truth that I didn't do it. I wouldn't be booking bombs into property.
The best lies are someone else's truth.
Yeah.
That's always the best. Yeah. Nice.
But my brother was a footballer, which explains, to explain the football one, my brother was a footballer and we used to go into the players' lounge after the game and you would have to wear shirt and tie and stuff to go in the players' lounge. And the first time was he played in a game where, this is a long time ago, for real proper football fans, Carlisle United avoided relegation to the Football League. The goalkeeper scored in the last minute of the game. And it's like one of the great moments in sporting history. Like, it's a fantastic moment. And we walked out the players' lounge, my brother and another player, and all the fans were still there going crazy. And they were all coming up asking for photographs and autographs. And of course, they didn't know who I was. And my brother was like, just go with it. Like, just sign stuff. Like, it'd be fun. So I'm signing shirts, in photos. And then he moved to a different club. And I was in the players' lounge there and fans came in and they were allowed in. They were doing the same thing. So he was like, just nodding, do it again. So I signed the shirts and stuff. So I just got to live the life of a footballer. Because if anyone's ever seen me play, I am not a pro footballer in a million years. Like, that would have blown me out instantly. I did sit in somebody's stuff. So that was true.
Yeah, that sounds a bit awful.
Yeah, it was grim.
If I'm honest.
I found there was a pack of Pampers in my intro when I got back to the police station. Or at least I'd gone and had a shower and came back, and then there's a pack of Pampers in there for me. So
very good.
Stuck around longer than I'd like.
Very good. So it's been awesome to catch up.
Likewise.
It's been great, James.
Likewise,
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next year, James.
See you next year
at the festival.
Yeah, wherever it is, whenever it is. I'm busy working on something that, so hopefully, maybe
Manchester, 1st of March.
Oh, really?
Same venue. Yeah.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
Well,
I'll see you there.